Yes, sir.
Yes, in regards to her comments about the Hootenanny Mass, the Polka Mass, Malachi Martin said that he felt that 50% of the Novus Ordo Masses were invalid because of the way that they were conducted.
And that's because he embraced the errors of Archbishop Lefebvre, who believed that the priest had to intend the sacramental effect, which was condemned by the Holy Office and is not true.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion.
Well, I'm just saying what he believed. Why would you say a Novus Ordo Mass is invalid? Give me your reason.
Well, let me just, I'll get to that, okay?
Well, I'm asking you it now. You want to answer the question?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'll tell you in
Okay.
a few minutes,
All right.
okay? So, I guess we could say that John Paul II was a heretic because when he was the Archbishop of Krakow, it's known that he ordained priests and bishops behind the Iron Curtain without Rome's.
When you say heretic, what do you mean?
Well, you said it yourself that you cannot ordain a bishop
I
without.
didn't say that was heretical.
Schismatic. So he's a schismatic.
Nope. Okay, there's a distinction there, and I've addressed this in articles, and maybe I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because maybe I didn't get into it in this talk, but the ordinations that Cardinal Wojtyła did were not only not prohibited by Paul VI, but they were actually accepted by the Holy See.
Because it was a state of an emergency, which is
what
Lefebvre says.
It doesn't matter what Lefebvre said, it's what the Pope says. If Paul VI would have condemned those ordinations, then Cardinal Wojtyła would have been a schismatic, but he didn't. So Paul VI accepted those consecrations, and John Paul II, the very person that you're pointing out to, who knew what a state of necessity was because he dealt with it behind the Iron Curtain, actually said that Lefebvre didn't have a state of necessity. And the reason why Lefebvre didn't have a state of necessity is because John Paul II actually gave him a bishop and gave him August 15th of 1988, and he refused it. So there is no comparison between what Cardinal Wojtyła did behind the Iron Curtain and what Archbishop Lefebvre did, sir.
So, well, at Assisi, John Paul II prayed with pagans, and in the book, The Victory of the Martyrs by, who's that, Brad? Yeah, Alphonse Liguori. He talks about early Christians that were killed because they would not throw salt or a little cereal offering in front of the god.
Mm-hmm.
And John Paul II prayed with pagans at Assisi. And
Did he lose his jurisdiction by doing that?
I imagine he did.
Well, based on what church teaching?
Well,
let me help you with that.
Let me finish this.
You don't lose your jurisdiction.
So the Protestants refused to come because they said that would be heretical to pray with people that aren't even Christian.
I'm not condoning it. What I'm saying, though, is he didn't lose his jurisdiction. He's still the Pope.
Well, I'm just saying what he did was heretical, which is, I think,
well, it depends what you mean by heretical, because a heretic loses his office, right? Okay.
Well, that's where the early Christians, they would die before they would even just throw rice in front of a pagan god.
Are you familiar with Pope Marcellinus?
No.
Okay, so Pope Marcellinus offered incense to Jupiter. What happened to him?
I have no idea.
All right, so
okay,
he was still Pope. What I'm saying is, I've written about this, sir. So I do not condone Assisi at all. In fact, it was one of the most disturbing things that I've seen in anybody's pontificate.
Right. That's why Lefebvre jumped the fence.
Well, but he overreacted because he's still the Pope. As much as John Paul II went off, John Paul II was still willing to give Lefebvre a traditional bishop and to form seminarians and traditional rites. And now Lefebvre not just had Lefebvre, but he had Lefebvre plus one. Lefebvre had what he asked for, and he refused. He refused.
Last Sunday, on the way home from Mass here, it takes me an hour to get here, I listened to a podcast by the SSPX where they interviewed Bishop Fillet. And then when I got home, I thought, well, John Salza's coming. I might as well just kind of get a gist of which direction he's going. And it sounded like two different stories completely. You know, Bishop Fillet talked about how you know what a holy man Archbishop Lefebvre was, how he dedicated his life to the church.
He was for a time. He was for a time.
Okay.
But he was a great missionary. Like I said, he
Yeah.
started off good. I've acknowledged that, and I've given Lefebvre his due until he withdrew submission from the church. At that point, he was no longer a good man. And that's my opinion, but that's also the opinion of the popes who excommunicated him for schism.
So, well, I hope everybody here is in union with the Pope, the Magisterium, the Vatican, the bishops especially, Bishop Jacobs, and has gotten the COVID shot. Because if they cannot kill you spiritually with the Norvis Ordo, they'll do it physically with the shot. One of the things that I find very interesting is that the Vatican asked Bishop Schneider to go in and check the SSPX, and he went in and he had nothing but great stuff to say about them, how Catholic they were.
Appearances, as I said.
Yeah.
Appearances, right. But he hasn't addressed any of the doctrinal or dogmatic issues that I've raised today, and I would invite His Excellency or any other bishop to do so. I would, because the bishop you mentioned claims that the society is not in schism because they do not reject the Pope's authority in principle, but that is not the definition of schism. That's the definition of heresy.
Okay.
So any bishop who claims that the authority of the Pope is not denied in principle is not a schismatic, I question their theological background, because that is not a question of schism, it's a question of heresy.
Okay, so anyways, so Archbishop Vigano, who's been in hiding because he accused Francis...
The one that denies that Francis is the Pope, that cardinal?
The papal nuncio who installed...
The one that denies that Francis is the Pope?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
That's heretical. If you want to
Okay.
talk about heresy, that's heretical.
Okay, anyways, talking about, he says, Your Excellency, why after Vatican II is the question of the liturgy such a burning question? And then he goes, the healthy blood of the gospel, now I'm just reading a small snippet at the end here. The healthy blood of the gospel flows in the veins of the Trinity Mass, while the new rite flows with the infected blood of heresy in the spirit of the world. And later on, they ask, I'm going to just read some of these statements. And he says, what you call the two liturgical forms of a single rite are actually two different rites. One was written by a Mason who hated the church, who wasn't even Catholic. He didn't say that, I'm saying that. One fully Catholic and one that is silent about Catholic truths.
That's his opinion.
And
that's fine. He's
insinuates
entitled to
errors
it.
of a Protestant and modernist matrix.
But this is all recycled stuff that Lefebvre said. Just because Vigano's saying it's old news. Vigano's not saying anything new. Lefebvre said all this. Quote Lefebvre.
Whoever embraces Vatican II and its heretical developments
Well,
cannot
let me stop you
find-
there, sir. What is heretical about Vatican II? What heresy does it teach?
He gets into that.
Well, I'm asking you. You're quoting him. Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say that we have a tradition that has extended from the apostles.
What teaching of Vatican II
Whoa,
is
whoa, whoa.
heretical? I'm asking you a specific
The
question.
new Mass.
Okay.
The new Mass.
The new Mass is heretical?
Yes.
When has the church declared that?
That's what Vigano says.
Sacrosanct, do you know the document that ordered the reform of the liturgy? It's called Sacrosanctum Concilium, okay? It ordered a reformed liturgy that would be said in Latin, ad orientem with Gregorian chant. Do you find that heretical? That's a teaching of Vatican II. Do you find that heretical, yes or no?
Paul
Do you
VI
find it
was-
heretical, yes or no? You made a statement about Vatican II. You said Vatican II, quoting Vigano, was heretical. I'm asking you point blank what teachings of Vatican II are heretical. Otherwise, don't stand here and say it's heretical.
I'm
What
reading
teachings?
what Vigano says.
What
is,
okay, I'm asking you, what teaching of Vatican II is heretical? You said the new Mass. I said Vatican II and Sacrosanctum Concilium taught the new Mass should be said in Latin, ad orientem with Gregorian chant. Is that heretical?
Is that done?
Is that, I'm saying what the council taught.
Yeah. Is it done? No, it's not
No,
done.
it's not done. That's an issue of implementation, sir. I'm talking
Okay.
about the council. You said the council teaches heresy, and you haven't proved it. That's a grave accusation against Holy Mother Church,
The
sir.
new Mass was written by somebody who wasn't even Catholic.
How do you know?
He was a Mason.
How
It
do
was
you know?
proved
How
that he
do
was
you
a
know?
Mason.
It wasn't proved in the external form, in the juridical form, in the ecclesiastical form.
There's a book that's been written about it. It's
Yes,
called
it
Mass in the
was.
33rd Degree.
And guess who was also declared or proved to be a Mason according to you? Blessed Pius IX. Do you believe in the Immaculate Conception?
Absolutely.
You do? Well, he was a Mason. He was a Freemason. Same thing. His autobiography said he was a Freemason. So what do you think about that? Should we deny the Immaculate Conception because Pius IX was declared a Freemason in his book? In the book about him? Come on. I've heard these arguments before.
Okay, well, great. That's
Okay.
wonderful. These people should hear them.
And that's why I'm giving it to you. I'm saying don't overreact just because an autobiography says somebody's a Mason, so now I'm going to deny a rite that was universally approved by the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church.
Paul VI
Are you Catholic?
sent him to Iran as the papal nuncio.
Does
They
that
have-
mean the Novus Ordo rite is invalid?
According to Vagano.
According to Vagano, Vagano has no authority. He's not the Pope. He didn't promulgate the new rite. Who is he? He's not your authority, sir. Your authority is your bishop, if you're a Roman Catholic. Does your bishop say the new Mass is invalid?
Our new
Yes,
bishop,
no. Does he say the new Mass is invalid?
Joe
Does your
Biden,
bishop
should
say
get
that?
the communion by our bishop.
Does your bishop say the new Mass is invalid? Yes or no?
No, he doesn't.
Okay, and if you're subject to him and you're Roman Catholic, then you also have to hold that the new Mass is not invalid.
Well, no, actually, I don't hold that it's invalid. I'm just saying that the form...
Vigano
that-
does, and you're quoting Vigano in support of your position.
Well, pretty much.
Okay, well then what is it? Do you think the new Mass is invalid or not? Take a stand.
No, I don't deny the transubstantiation done in there. But Marie Julie Jeheny, who was stigmatist at the turn of the century...
All right, now we got private revelations, okay.
Okay.
All right.
So she didn't know what Christ was telling her when he said, in the second half, there will be a new rite that will be odious to me. Now, everybody here knows what that means.